Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this presentation on XL bullies. My name is Patricia McGrady. I'm a qualified behaviourist. I'm a member of the CFBA and I trained with the CIDBT. And I've just put the date on this presentation because we're still waiting for some more information to come through about the ban. So I thought it would be useful just to date the presentation. Just some notes before we get started. Just bear with me. I just want to make sure everyone's entering the room okay. Yeah, just some notes before we get started. Um, so there are specialists that will know a lot more about the law. These specialists, for example, will be a dog expert witness and dog law solicitors. So I'm a behaviourist. I'm not a dog expert witness and I'm not a solicitor. But if you wanted to get some additional advice on this subject, then I would say that they would be good places to go to. A dog expert witness is somebody that would be called into the courts to deal with cases that have gone to the court under the Dangerous Dogs Act. So they're professionals that can identify type, for example, and might be used to assess dogs that have been seized. And then dog law solicitors are people that just specialise just only in dog law. So they would be the ones that would represent somebody if a case did have to go to court. So just to mention that, and that I'm a behaviourist myself, so I deal with behaviour. And I've gone through all of the information that's been put out to us and just tried to put it all in plain English for everyone so that it's as easy for you to understand as it can be. But just with that caveat to say that I am a behaviourist and I'm not a solicitor and I'm not a dog expert witness. I want to give full credit to Trevor Cooper of Cooper & Co. From doglaw.co.uk because his company has been really helpful in providing information in the run-up to where we are today. And some of the information that I'm putting in here, I have quoted Trevor Cooper. So I just want to give full credit to Trevor Cooper. And also, I know that some of the subjects we're going to be talking about are going to be sensitive, and I apologise in advance if this is upsetting for anybody. I'm just here to relay the information. I'm not the one setting any of the rules. So I do apologise if anything that we discuss is upsetting. And once I've gone through the presentation, then I'll take questions at the end. Please, if people don't mind, just keep to your questions rather than discussing and debating whether the ban is a good thing or whether it's going to work, because it's just happening. And I'll do my very, very best to answer the questions with the knowledge that I've got. As I say, I'm not an expert, I'm not a dog expert witness, and I'm not a solicitor, but I will try my best to answer any of the questions that you may have. Just bear with me, please. Okay, so I've taken this information from the government website. So I'm just going to read this out. From the 31st of December 2023, breeding, selling, advertising, rehoming, exchanging, abandoning and owning an XL bully dog, or sorry, allowing an XL bully dog to stray will be illegal. So that's from the 31st of December. I assume that means starting on that day and not the 1st of January. So from, I guess, 1 minute in the morning on the 31st of December, then the new rules will come into place for this breed. From this date, these dogs must be kept on a lead and muzzled in public. And public places include your garden if, for example, a postman can enter, and your car if it is in a public place at that time. And I know that that might be a little bit of a bone of contention from some people, but again, I'm just relaying information here from Trevor Cooper, from Cooper & Co. about what is the definition of a public place. So that's something to bear in mind. If your garden is accessible, then I think it would be classed as a public place. And so your dog would need to be muzzled and kept on a lead in the garden. They say that breeders have been informed to stop breeding. Now, I don't really understand how they're going about this. They haven't said how they're going to do this, and I assume what they've done is that they've contacted those breeders that are registered, that are licensed under Lucy's law. Now, as we all know, there are unscrupulous breeders out there, and there will be many people that are breeding that are not licensed, that are probably not going to be kept on a register with the government. So I assume that they won't have been notified. I'm a professional, I work in the industry. I haven't been notified anything about this from the government. So I'm a little bit unclear as to how they would have gone about that, how they would have informed all the breeders to stop breeding. Because like I say, there are so many breeders that are not registered, that are not licensed. So I don't know how they would be able to access all of those people. So that's a little bit of a grey area. Just to say, these laws are coming into effect for England and Wales. It may extend to Scotland and Northern Ireland. And there are currently 4 dogs on the dangerous dogs list at the moment. For England and Wales, we've got a Pit Bull Terrier, the Japanese Tosa, Dogo Argentino, and the Fila Brasileira. So adding the XL Bully will make that a 5th breed to add onto the list. So they're going to give us about 9 weeks, where we've got this grace period before the second phase comes into play, which is on the 1st of February, where it will become illegal to own an XL Bully if it is not registered on the index of exempted dogs. So they're giving everybody some time to get their dog registered on that index. By staggering these 2 dates, current owners of this breed will have time to prepare for the new rules. So it's not very long. So I think we all have to be quite quick in dealing with this. Also, the dogs will need to be microchipped, wear a collar and an ID tag, and be neutered, and to have third-party liability insurance, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. The microchipping is a legal requirement for all dogs, not just banned breeds. Wearing a collar and an ID tag in public is also applicable to all dogs. It's not just relevant for dogs under the Dangerous Dogs Act. So from the 1st of February, any dogs of this type we will talk about later, that are not registered, could be seized and put to sleep. Owners could face an unlimited fine and up to 14 years in prison and a criminal record. And that is the current legislation for anyone who's in breach of the Dangerous Dogs Act. DEFRA are going to announce more on the index. At the moment, we don't know how people can apply to have their dog registered on the index of exempted dogs. All that they have said is that DEFRA are going to announce some more information on this. And I hope they do this soon, because it's not long between now and the 1st of February. This is what we call owner-led, which is the same as what happened in 1991 when the Dangerous Dogs Act was first brought out. And what that means is the onus is on the owner, so you as the dog owner, to get your dog registered, and it's not being put through the courts. So it's not being that you would have to go to the courts to apply, and it would be the courts that make those decisions if your dog is an XL Bully. I think the reason that they've decided that is that courts are just overwhelmed at the moment, and it would just be they're too busy to deal with everyone's individual cases. So they're relying on people to make the decision themselves as to whether you own an XL Bully or not. If you think you own an XL Bully, then you would need to apply to get your dog, if that's what you chose to do, to get your dog put on the index of exempted dogs. Just bear with me. Sorry, I need to admit some more people. Okay. So neutering. Dogs, this is a little bit, I've had to reread these dates so many times because it's a little bit confusing. And sorry, I'm just going to go back a page, bear with me. So another requirement under the Dangerous Dogs Act is that if the dog has been taken out after the 31st of December, it needs to be handled by somebody who's 16 years and over. That's another requirement of this. And it applies to the owner, whoever is in possession of the dog at the time, and rescues. So the law will apply if somebody could be deemed to be in control of a dangerous dog, whether it's the owner, the person that's handling the dog, and this also applies to rescue centres as well. So looking at neutering, so one of the requirements of the new legislation is that dogs under 1 year, when the ban comes in, must be neutered by the end of the year, end of next year, 2024. Older dogs must be neutered by the end of June. So I've quoted the text here from the government website. If your dog is less than 1 year old on the 31st of January 24, it must be neutered by the 31st of December 24. So I've done the maths on that. And any dog born on or after the 1st of February 23 can wait until December 24 to be neutered. Because if it's born on or after the 1st of February 23, it means it's less than a year old as of the 31st of January. So that means you can wait until the end of next year to have it neutered. So potentially that dog might almost be 2 years old, which for large breed dogs, we want to leave them entire for as long as possible, in my opinion, because they take longer to develop physically and mentally. And neutering them before that can lead to behavior problems and health problems. So it's good that those dogs will be almost 2 years old. Bear with me, I'm just going to see if anyone else has entered the room. Sorry about this. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. If your dog is older than 1 year on the 31st of January 24, it must be neutered by the 30th of June 24. So that's 6 months sooner. So again, I've done the maths on this. Any dog born on or before the 30th of January 23 this year, it will be over 1 year old on the 31st of January 24, and therefore will have to be neutered by the 30th of June 24. So potentially those dogs will be 18 months old, which is obviously not as old as 2. And from a developmental point of view, that's not ideal. In my opinion, I wouldn't want to neuter a large breed dog, before the age of 2 years old. So there's a 1 day difference that can have a 6 month sway either way. But what's not clear to me is they haven't identified what about dogs that are born on the 31st of January 2023. They haven't said what category that will fall into. I know there probably won't be many of those dogs, but there might be some. And it's not clear whether they would be falling into having to be neutered in June or whether they could wait to be neutered in December. And then there's also the question about identifying the day that the dog is actually born, because sometimes dogs are born in the middle of the night. And I guess you just have to rely on the information given to you from your breeder on that. Now, the advice that has been given by the government and also by the solicitors is that if you have a dog that you think falls into this category, is to book the neutering in as soon as possible and not to wait, because the vets are going to get very busy, and we would just want to make sure that you're all legal by the time the changes come, and you will also need to get evidence from your vet. One thing I've just thought of now is that I haven't heard them say whether chemical castration will suffice. I don't think so. I think it would probably need to be full neutering. So that would mean testicles removed, and for the females to be fully neutered, not to rely on chemical castration. But that's just my own summaries on that. But you would need to get evidence from your vet that your dog has been neutered and keep hold of that. And if your dog has already been neutered, just get a copy of that now and ask that from your vets now before they get too busy. Just want to say Cooper and Co calculate the dates one day different to me, because the ban comes in on the 31st of December, and I think Cooper and Co are applying it from the 1st of January. I mean, they're solicitors, so they probably know more than me, but I'm reading it that the ban comes in on the 31st of December. So a little bit of a grey area there. And I think anyone whose dog might have been born on those cusp dates that I'm talking about, 31st of January 23 or 1st of February 23, might be worthwhile talking to a dog solicitor on that, just to get that absolutely clarified. Just bear with me again. I want to check anyone coming into the room. It's fine. Okay. So what will you have to do? What are the requirements if you own an XL Bully? Your dog will need to be muzzled, so you will need to muzzle train your dog. The Blue Cross have got quite a nice video on muzzle training. There's loads of free videos with muzzle training on the internet. But if you search Blue Cross muzzle conditioning guide, there's a nice video on there, and it's actually a large breed dog. So that's quite good, and I would say to get that started straight away. And also just to make a note that the muzzle must be humane. So for an XL Bully type, we'd be looking at probably a Baskerville style muzzle, where the dog can pant and breathe and be sick if it needs to, and drink water and take treats. The muzzle must not be removed in public. So it must be well fitted, and that the dog cannot take it off itself. Even, and I'm sorry if this is upsetting, but even if the dog was being sick, you would not be allowed to take the muzzle off, because it has to stay on when it's in public. So it's worthwhile getting a really good fitted muzzle, and doing that muzzle training straight away. I think having a good loose lead walking is really important as well, because the dogs have to be under control, and that goes for all of us, all breeds. Our dogs have to be generally under control in public. So working on loose lead training, I think, is really important. And socially controlled. So what I mean by that is just not reactive, not lunging, not barking, not dragging over to see dogs or people or anything like that, but just sort of well-mannered and well controlled when out in public. That's going to be really important. So it's worth thinking about looking at some training for that now. And just a word for professionals, I think that this rule is going to apply to all of us. So I don't own an XL Bully, but I potentially might be working with XL Bullies. So anyone that's going to be handling the dog, looking after the dog, so trainers, behaviourists, groomers, pet sitters, boarders, vets, physiotherapists, alternative medicines, etc., anyone like that that's involved with the dog needs to be aware of these changes, because the law applies to whoever is in control of the dog at the time. So if I was working with an XL Bully, and that XL Bully, if I had the lead and that XL Bully slipped the lead and pulled the muzzle off and bit someone, it would most likely be me that is liable, because I was the one that was handling the dog at the time. So some professionals may not want to work with XL Bullies. I know a lot of people are a little bit unsure. Insurance companies, I literally just had an email from my personal insurance company yesterday on their position on this. And this is what they have said. They sent me an email and they've said that the dog is, they will allow professionals. So I will be allowed to work with XL Bullies for behaviour training, provided that the dog is registered on the index with a copy of the live certificate is obtained and provided to us in the event of a claim. So I would want to see that certificate before I started working with that dog. So anyone that does have an XL Bully, please be sensitive to the fact that any professionals may want to ask you for documentation. Please don't be offended. We're running businesses, it's our livelihood. and we have to make sure that we're professional and we stick to the rules of our insurance. So we may, if we feel that it's an XL bully, we may request to see that exempted certificate. And also a copy of the public liability insurance for the dog as well. And that dog needs to have public liability insurance for life. And just to touch on public liability insurance, what that means is it covers you in the event that your dog was to cause harm to a member of the public. For example, if your dog ran out in the road and caused a traffic accident and somebody died in their car, that would class as public liability. If your dog was to jump on somebody and knock them over and they smacked their head open, that would be classed as a public liability issue, or if a dog was to bite someone. So the legal requirement is that all of these dogs have got public liability insurance for life. Now, apparently there are not many insurance providers that are willing to give public liability insurance for dogs that are on the dangerous dogs list, that are banned breeds. Apparently there is only one provider that currently gives this to owners. I don't know the name of it because when the information was given to me, the person saying it was not allowed to say the name just in case it sounded like they were trying to scout for business for them. So you need to do your own searches. However, you can currently get membership with the Dogs Trust for £25 a year. And with that comes automatically, you get free public liability insurance included with your membership. So that is one way of getting that public liability insurance, is to join the Dogs Trust. And that is currently still the case. I'm not aware of them changing that. It doesn't include health insurance. Health insurance is if your dog gets sick or breaks a leg or something like that, and you want to make a claim, that's health insurance. You don't have a legal requirement to have your dog to have health insurance. It's not a legal requirement, but again, there are not many providers that are actually offering this, so it might be difficult for you to even get that insurance, the health insurance for your dog. Going back to the email from Pet Business Insurance, to me, the dog handler ratio is 1-to-1 at all times. So if I was working with an XL bully, I would only be able to hold one dog only. And I assume that that might go for groomers, etc., any other professionals as well. And that the dog must be neutered and microchipped and kept on the lead and muzzled at all times, and kept in a secure place, which is another part of the new legislation. So for professionals, I think literally just yesterday, my own insurance company have said, yes, we will cover you for no additional cost. At the moment, I'm not entirely sure whether I will choose to work with dogs on the dangerous dogs list. I'm not quite sure. I haven't decided. I know some professionals are a little bit uncertain as to whether they're going to want to do that. But if we do, we will need to see the insurance and we will need to see the evidence that your dog is on the index of exempted dogs. So I'm really sorry about this subject, but I have to bring it up. So some owners may choose to have their dogs put to sleep with a vet if they don't want to apply to go on the index of exempted dogs, and there has been compensation offered towards these costs. Further details on this compensation are to be released, and evidence will be required to make a claim. The figure quoted is up to £200, so it might not be £200, it's up to £200. Just bear with me, please, everybody. Lovely, thank you. Okay, so I'm really sorry about that subject, but I just had to bring that up because it is part of the guidelines that they have brought out. In terms of the equipment, just going back to walking, I would recommend that the dog has a sturdy lead and is not walked on a harness, or not solely relied for walking on a harness alone. Definitely not clipping the lead onto the back of the dog because there's not enough control there. I would advise, well, the dog has to have a collar by law, so a good thick collar and a good thick leather lead, and potentially, if you feel like you need that extra support, then a harness with a second clip onto the harness. And please don't use flexi leads because they're just not the dog's not going to be under enough control. So we're going to talk about the definition. Now, this is referred to as the type. It's a phrase that's used by the dog expert witnesses in the courts. Or you could sort of refer to it as the breed. So the link for this is on my Facebook page, or you can even just Google it now. It's on the internet. And what they're asking people to do is to use this official guide to identify if your dog may be an XL bully. And this involves checking the dog's physical characteristics, such as its size and its height. The government, I quote this here, we recommend a precautionary approach. If you're not sure if you have an XL bully dog, you should comply with all new requirements for this dog type. This includes puppies that may grow up to be an XL bully dog. Now, with the measurements that they're giving, I'm assuming that they're talking about the measurements of that dog as an adult, of where it will reach. If you have a puppy, you're not going to know how big that dog is going to be. So it's a little bit hard to identify if you have a young dog, it hasn't fully grown yet. But what they're saying is to take a precautionary approach. If you feel like your dog may grow up to fit that type, then use the rules that have been given to you and assume that that is the advice that has been given. And the general impression, they're describing it as a large dog with a muscular body, a blocky head, suggesting great strength and power for its size, a powerfully built individual. So I've just taken a snapshot of what's on the government website. And again, you can go there and look through this all. It's not easy, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of stuff to look at. There's a lot of things to think about. And I personally would not feel comfortable doing this with I don't think I would feel experienced enough doing these measurements myself with my dog. So I can only imagine it must be quite daunting for anybody who's not that experienced with dogs. And that's when I think, if you're not sure, it might be worth getting the help of a professional, of a dog expert witness who might be able to help you with this. But please bear in mind, they're going to be very, very busy at the moment. So we'll just have a look at a couple of the descriptions of the hindquarters: strong, muscular and broad, thighs well developed with thick musculature. From behind, both pasterns are typically straight and parallel to each other. I mean, this is like Kennel Club stuff. They do describe what these words are further down on the website. They go into the definition of it. But I think this is going to be difficult for people. And, you know, I'm not a judge. I'm not a breeder. I don't know what all of this stuff is. And I'm sure that a lot of people are going to find this quite difficult as well. But I would go onto the website and just read it all, and read it, and, you know, take a precautionary approach. And if you think you have an XL bully type, I personally would advise you to just go ahead on that basis. Like I say, they've given different measurements for males and females. It's difficult if you're measuring the dog and it's not fully grown. And there's a lot of things in there, like the head, the teeth, the neck, the forequarters, the body, the feet, the tail, the coat. So there's a lot to think about. And this is owner-led, as I said before. So they're not saying bring your dog into the court and someone's going to assess your dog and tell you. And I think the reason they're not doing it that way is they just don't have the resources for that at the moment. They're relying on owners to do this for themselves. And literally get tape measures out. If I was to turn up to a job, if I had suspicion that it was an XL bully and I wasn't pre-warned of that, I'm not going to get my tape measure out. It's just not practical. I may just have to say, look, I'm really, really sorry, but I think this dog looks like it might be an XL bully. Do you have it on the index? And if you don't, I'm really sorry, but I can't work with you. And, you know, I'm sorry if that's kind of a little bit difficult for people, but just thinking about it from a professional perspective, it's going to be a little bit difficult for anyone, I think, working with a dog that they think might look like it, because it affects all of us. So there's definitions on there for owners, and then there's definitions on there for professionals, which I think would be dog wardens and police officers. Fairly similar descriptions, but you can see how they would describe identifying the dogs to the professionals. Now, I've taken this from the website, so I think it's quite important. The definition, it's important to clarify that the assessment of whether an individual dog is prohibited is strictly based on breed type, rather than breed or crossbreed. This means that whether your dog is a banned type depends on whether it meets the physical characteristics of a banned breed type, rather than its breed name or any DNA test results. DNA was not allowed in 1991. They were not allowing DNA as evidence in court to define breed types, and they're continuing with that now. So even if you have a DNA test and it says that your dog is 75% Staffordshire Bull Terrier, it's not going to make any difference. They're going to look at its look. And this next paragraph is really important. A suspected XL bully breed type does not need to fit the physical description perfectly if it meets a substantial number of the characteristics set out in the confirmation standard below. So if that table that I showed you before, all of those tables, it could be considered an XL bully breed type. So it doesn't need to tick all of those boxes, but if it meets a substantial number, then a professional person, a policeman, or a dog warden can classify that as a type. If you think your dog has a substantial amount of the physical characteristics set out in the confirmation standard, your dog may be in scope of the ban, whether or not it was sold as an XL bully. And I appreciate this might be difficult for people. You might have been sold a pocket bully or an American Staffy or something like that, and it just might not be what you think you've bought. But unfortunately, they're not taking that into consideration, and they're going along the physical aspects of the dog. Okay. So let's have a look at some more things that you would need to think about if you own, if you're going to keep an XL bully. So you've got until the end of January to apply for a certificate of exemption. And again, we don't know, all we've been told is that DEFRA are going to release some more information on that soon. They've kept the cost the same, so that's good. I think they did that on purpose because they didn't want to upset people even more. It was £92.40 and they've kept it at £92.40. Your dog must be microchipped. All dogs must be microchipped. It must have third-party liability insurance, which we've discussed, and kept on a lead at all times in public. And remember the definition of public. It's not just out in the street. It could potentially be your garden. It could potentially be in the car if you're going to the shops. Must be muzzled in public, neutered, secure when at home, and handled by somebody over 16 years or older. If the police suspect the dog is an XL bully, it is enough and does not need to fit the physical description properly. And I think this is really important, that people are going to, you know, I have spoken to quite a few people about this, and I know it's a really passionate subject, and a lot of owners that I've spoken to are adamant that they don't own an XL bully. But unfortunately, I don't think that that's the point. I think that if it's suspected to be, then it's enough that that dog could potentially be seized. And I know that's going to upset a lot of people, but I think that they've kept this really broad on purpose. If your dog is seized, it will then be up to you to prove it is not an XL bully. And then that would be where you get a dog expert witness coming in who would do an assessment for you on your behalf and assess the dog and then give their opinion onto whether it fits the type or not. So that's what would happen. And I just want to also say something else about, it's not easy to tell if a female has been spayed if it's walking down the street. It's easier to tell if a male has, but it's easy to see if it hasn't. So if we see a type looking dog walking down the street with testicles, it's going to be obvious that that dog has not been neutered. And I'm on everybody's side here and I want to help everybody, but not everybody likes dogs. Some people really, really don't like dogs. And that may be, somebody may choose to report that dog. I have heard of an owner being followed home by somebody so that they could get that person's address to report their dog to the police. So it's something to think about, that if you've got a boy and you're adamant you don't want to neuter it, and you're worried about all the growth plates and everything like that, and you don't neuter it, balls are going to be really obvious when you're walking that dog out in public, especially if the tail is up high. Bear in mind, somebody might notice that. Somebody might choose to follow you home, and I'm really sorry about that, but I have heard of it happen before. DNA won't be used as evidence, and there must be a registered keeper. So under the existing law, there is only one registered keeper. So if you're married and you've got children, the dog must be registered to one person only. So one member of that family only. And there's something called a 30-day rule, which means that in a 12-month period, that registered keeper will not be able to leave that dog unattended, or leave that dog in the hands of somebody else. So you might want to think about that if you travel a lot for work, or you go on holiday a lot and you're going to be out of the country for more than 30 days in a 12-month period. Think about who the best person is to be that registered keeper. It's not in a year, so January to December, it's in a 12-month period. And there is only one registered keeper allowed, and it has to be stayed at that address. Another thing to think about is landlords. If you don't own your property, are you renting? Are you in a council property? Because some landlords may decide to put changes to their tenancy agreements where they say, I do not allow you to have a dangerous dog stay at the property. Councils may do the same. I think ultimately check your tenancy agreement if you have one. It's just something else to think about. If you're stopped by the police, they may ask to see your certificate of exemption, and then you will have 5 days to produce that. If you're approached by the dog warden as well, they can ask you to see that certificate of exemption and your evidence of neutering. So once the dog has been neutered, get proof of that from your vets. And then that needs to get sent to DEFRA. So the vets are supposed to send that off to DEFRA. And I think that's part of the process of getting your certificate of exemption, that once they have that evidence from your vet, then the process can be completed. And for you to get a copy of that, the fact that your dog's been neutered as well. There may be a fee from your vets to do that. We don't know. Forms are going to be released shortly. And the vets are going to be very, very busy. Shared possession will not be allowed. So just think about that. It must be registered to one person only. So that's a kind of summary of everything. Further information, Cooper & Co have already done a live in the run up to this, which is on their YouTube channel, and they're doing another live session on Sunday the 19th at 3 p.m. Spaces are limited. If you want to register, you can contact that lady, Alana, at doglaw.co.uk to get registered. I'll do that soon because the spaces are limited. They're going to go over everything, so pretty much like what I've done tonight, but they're solicitors, so they know more about the law than I do. I've got links to all of the government websites pages on my Facebook page. Doglaw.co.uk is the solicitor, Trevor Cooper & Co.'s company, and dog expert witnesses are the people that will do the assessments that would be involved if a case goes to court, and you can just type that into Google. The CFBA, CF for Freddie BA, have got dog expert witnesses on their panels as well. They're very busy people at the moment. That's the only thing. They have been really busy because bites have increased, so there's a lot more work for them at the moment. So just bear that in mind if you contact them. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and ask if anybody has any questions. If you would like to raise a hand, if anyone's got any questions. If anyone wants to say anything. No? Or yeah, Bella, do you want to unmute yourself, Bella, and I will try and answer your question. You can take your camera off if you want to, but you don't have to. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Hello, I don't know if you can hear me.
Hi, Bella.
Hello there. Sorry, it's actually Lisa, but I'm on here as Belle where my husband set me up. So apologies for that. It's Lisa Bolton. Thanks for this, by the way. It's brilliant. My question is just a quick one. I work at a vet's. Where will the veterinary practices stand when a dog is in their care where a muzzle needs to be removed for some form of examination or following an injury? How's it going to work?
That's a really good question. I don't know is the answer to that, Lisa. And I don't even know if the vets will have a policy where they just say we're not going to treat dogs that are on the dangerous dogs list. It's a tricky one. I don't know, I'm afraid. I guess if it's at the vets and if it's in a private treatment room, that's not in the public. So maybe they'd be allowed to remove the muzzle for that. If it's walking through the vets, then that would be classed as a public place. But perhaps if it's in its cage or whatever at the vets and it needs treatment, then I think that was classed as not being in a public place. But again, this is a sort of a solicitor type of question that I don't feel completely comfortable to answer. And I also just wonder if some of the vets are just going to have a policy where they say, well, we're not going to be taking these dogs in. I really don't know. Does that, and I know it's not a direct answer to your question, but does that help at all?
No, that does. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's a really grey area at the moment. Obviously, dogs can't be muzzled when they're having anaesthetic and stuff like that. So it's going to be a whole messy process in this industry, I think.
Yeah, I know. And I just think the young ones as well, so the ones that haven't even fully grown up yet and not knowing are they going to be of the type as they get older, and that's spilling over to, like, what if you've got a small dog that you think's not going to be type and then it grows up and it does be type, you sort of have to rush out and get it neutered. It's not going to be easy, I don't think. I haven't had too many conversations with vets about it, and I think probably what they're doing, as it probably all professionals are doing, is getting their heads around all of this new legislation and then discussing and deciding what they're supposed to be doing, and what they can and can't do. It was only yesterday that I got that email about my insurance, because up until that point I just didn't know whether I'd be covered or not.
Yeah.
So there might be some information coming from the British veterinary industry. I don't know as to what they're supposed to do about that, but it is a difficult one.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm really sorry I can't answer it. That might be something that Trevor Cooper might be able to answer on the 19th. I'll pass the back over to him. Mark, did you have any questions? No, I'm assuming no. Yeah, hi Mark.
Hi, yeah, sorry about it. I had a bit of trouble getting in. I missed the first bit. A bit of technology.
I've recorded it, so I can. I'll put the link up onto my page.
I appreciate it. Thank you. No, it's just trying to take it all in, really.
Yeah.
We've got two Staffy, Staffy Cross XL, and we're just sort of trying to get our heads around it, really, because they're not full XLs. They're very small in comparison to what what you've seen or what we see on the internet and on the telly.
Yeah.
They literally just fit inside the parameters.
Yeah.
I say our female, she's got a staffy head but a big body, whereas the boy's more blocky, but he's small. He just fits inside, just inside the sort of parameters, but he has got the bigger head. And it's it's just knowing whether or not they are or they're not.
It's difficult. I think if I was you, what I feel comfortable to say, Mark, if I was you, I'd have a go at doing those measurements myself. Mm-hmm. And if I wasn't sure, I'd be trying to get in touch with a dog expert witness and say, can you help me? Can you help me with this? And can you help me assess my dog? And, maybe they can give you a bit of a more of a valuable opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the advice that they're saying is if you think your dog may be type, then just assume it is. That's what they're saying.
So when we went to visit them as pups, the mum was a staffy, but they're bigger than their mum, and we know that the dad was potentially, he was potentially a lot of full XL sort of big sized dog, you know. So it's just a bit gutted really. just
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how old they are. Are they adults now, Mark?
Yeah, they're 3. They're
3.
Yeah, 3.5.
Okay. If they're not neutered, if you had to get them neutered, at least they would be fully grown, and you know, fully adult now. So I suppose that's one thing.
We've had the pair of them. They've both been done quite early.
Okay.
Just, you know,
okay,
because of for obvious reasons.
yeah.
But yeah, it's just
So
like I say, it's just taking it all in. And I say I've made a load of notes here because we're just not obviously not sure. As far as we're concerned, we had sort of Staffordshire Cross, but it's obviously knowing what we know and obviously what's come about. We're just concerned that if we don't go through the process, we run the risk, and it's quite concerning.
Yeah.
Sorry,
the thing that I'm
the wife with me. Sorry.
Yeah. Obviously
something I'm.
Yeah. Sorry,
Lisa. Go on.
The title of this has been sort of published as XL Bully, but seeing as it's going on characteristics, is that, I take it that like this is going to be a across the board. I mean, you're looking at potentially staffies, you're looking at mastiffs, a whole host of dogs, isn't it? That is going to categorize a whole host of dogs, not potentially XL bullies, with the fact that it's characteristics.
So bull types, I think, and if they've got that look about them, you know. So I think that it does span pocket bullies, staffies, you know, potentially the other breed that you said that's gone out of my head. I think it's going to affect a lot of people. And what worries me is members of the public who don't like dogs, because not everyone likes dogs, right? Some people really, really hate dogs. And if they see a dog walking down the street that isn't muzzled, that they think is an XL bully, and then them following that person home and getting the address and then reporting it to the police. That's what worries me.
I mean, obviously,
and that's what I think.
Like as you're saying, it's if you can tick off a majority of them characteristics, but obviously you're going back. A majority of that is height. It's height and weight categories, and basic muscle stature, and that does, as I say, that is not an XL breed. It is literally all bull breeds. So there's going to be there's going to be a lot of people that are anti-dog, and I don't think this is being publicised enough that it now needs to be publicised that it's not just an XL thing, it's a general bully breed, because there's going to be a lot of people out there that go, my dog's not an XL bully, and they're not going to do anything about this.
Well, they already are. You know, that's already happening. So they're looking at the general impression. This is their summary. It's a large dog with a muscular body and a blocky head, suggesting great strength and power for its size, powerfully built individual. And then it's height, head, teeth, neck, forequarters, body, hindquarters, feet, tail, coat. I covered them all. So there's quite a lot of assessment that needs going on, you know. It's difficult. It is difficult, but I just wanted to put this together to sort of try to help people, summarize it for everybody, and try to get everyone to be aware of what needs to happen and the deadlines and the dates and stuff like that. And then from here, it's up to the owners to make the decision as to whether they think their dog is type or not. And if you think it could be type, then to go ahead and do whatever needs to be done.
Thank you very well for putting it on.
Say that again, Mark. Sorry.
I said thank you very much for putting it on as well.
You're welcome.
It's explained a lot, and yeah, I'll say I've taken quite a few notes from what you've said, just to, you know, just for information. You know, a lot of stuff that I just couldn't,
research.
couldn't research.
Yeah.
I would I think you should all register for the Cooper and Co thing, because he's a solicitor, right? And they're taking questions in advance. So Lisa, your question that you asked me, you can email that into them in advance, and that's a good question, and he will probably pick up on it and talk about it. And follow him, because he's great. And if you ever needed advice, there you go, speak to his company, because he specializes in it.
What was the website again for him, Patricia?
Yeah, it's doglaw. It's doglaw.co.uk. Let me share my screen. Yeah, I'm sharing it. I can show you the contact information.
Thank you.
Yeah, Cooper and Co's live on the 19th at 3 p.m, I think. And email them or give them a ring, tell them you want to register for that. They already did a really interesting talk about a month ago in the run up to it. It was a little bit hearsay because we didn't have the rules then. So there was a bit of, is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? But it was still interesting. That's on their YouTube channel. Their website is doglaw.co.uk.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll finish up now. Thanks everyone for watching. And I thought there'd be more people, but never mind. And good luck with it, everybody. You know, I know that this is really difficult for everyone, but I just wish you all the best with it. And, you know, if you need any behaviour advice, me or anyone in your area, just, you know, reach out for help. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye then. Have a nice
That
evening.
was absolutely brilliant. Best of luck, Mark and family, with your doggies. Hope it all goes okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All the best
everyone.
in the workplace.
Thanks, Patricia. That was amazing. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.